The air crackled with anticipation. The city of Rome had not seen such a gathering in years. People from all walks of life, from different corners of the globe, had converged upon this historic city. The atmosphere was electric, filled with a sense of hope and renewal. The streets were alive with chatter, laughter, and the occasional tear of joy. It was a moment that transcended the ordinary, a moment that promised to be etched in the annals of history. Sunlight bathed St. Peter's Square. Millions had gathered. The square, a symbol of faith and unity, was now a sea of faces, each one reflecting a unique story, a unique journey. The golden rays of the sun seemed to bless the occasion, casting a warm glow over the assembled masses. It was as if the heavens themselves were acknowledging the significance of this day. All eyes were on the balcony. The anticipation was palpable. Whispers filled the air as people speculated about the new leader who would soon appear. The balcony, a place from which many historic announcements had been made, was now the focal point of the world's attention. It was a moment of collective breath-holding, a moment of shared expectation. A new pope was about to address the world. The weight of this moment was not lost on anyone. It was a time of change, a time of new beginnings. The world watched with bated breath, waiting for the first glimpse of the new pontiff. This was more than just a religious event. It was a global moment of unity and hope. Pope Tagle, the first Asian pontiff, stepped forward. His smile was warm. It was a smile that spoke of kindness, of understanding, of a deep connection with the people. As he waved to the crowd, a wave of emotion swept through the square. This was a historic moment, a moment that signaled a new direction for the Catholic Church. His eyes held a deep, quiet strength. They were the eyes of a man who had seen much, who had endured much, and who had emerged stronger for it. There was a serenity in his gaze, a calm assurance that inspired confidence. This was a leader who understood the challenges ahead, but who also saw the opportunities for growth and renewal. This was a historic moment, a moment that would be remembered for generations to come. It was a moment that marked the beginning of a new chapter in the history of the Catholic Church. The significance of this day was not lost on anyone present. It was a day of hope, of renewal, of new beginnings. The Catholic Church stood at a crossroads. The decisions made in the coming days and years would shape its future. It was a time of reflection, of looking back at the past and learning from it, but also of looking forward with hope and determination. The Church was poised for change, and the world watched with anticipation. Pope Tagle's words held the promise of change. His voice, though gentle, resonated with power. He spoke of love. He spoke of compassion. His message was one of inclusivity, of reaching out to those who had felt marginalized or forgotten. It was a message that resonated deeply with the crowd, a message that promised a brighter future. His voice, though gentle, resonated with power. He spoke of love. He spoke of compassion. His words were a balm to the weary, a beacon of hope to those in despair. He spoke of a church that embraced all, that welcomed everyone with open arms. It was a message that was both revolutionary and deeply comforting. He spoke of a church that embraced all, a church that was not just a place of worship, but a community, a family. His words were a call to action, a call to embrace the values of love, compassion, and inclusivity. The crowd listened in rapt attention, hanging on to every word. This was a message that resonated deeply, a message that promised a brighter future for all. His message was clear. The time for change had come. It was a call to action, a call to embrace the values of love, compassion, and inclusivity. The crowd listened in rapt attention, hanging on to every word. This was a message that resonated deeply, a message that promised a brighter future for all. This was not just a change in leadership, it was a change in direction, a change in vision. It was a moment that signaled a new beginning, a fresh start. The world watched with anticipation, waiting to see what the future would hold. This was a moment of hope, of renewal, of new beginnings. It was a call for a revolution of the heart, a call to embrace the values of love, compassion, and inclusivity. It was a message that resonated deeply, a message that promised a brighter future for all. This was a moment of hope, of renewal, of new beginnings. The world watched with anticipation, waiting to see what the future would hold. This was a moment of hope, of renewal, of new beginnings. Pope Tagle's speech was electrifying. His words resonated deeply with everyone present, creating an atmosphere charged with emotion and anticipation. As he stood at the podium, his voice carried a weight that was palpable, each sentence meticulously crafted to convey a powerful message. He challenged the Church to confront its past. With a tone that was both firm and compassionate, he urged the institution to look inward and address the mistakes that had been made over the centuries. His call for introspection was not just a critique, but a plea for genuine transformation. He spoke of the need for forgiveness and reconciliation. His words were a reminder that healing could only begin when the truth was acknowledged and amends were made. The audience listened intently. Many moved to tears by the sincerity and urgency in his voice. He condemned the abuse scandals that had shaken the Church to its core. He did not shy away from the painful realities. Instead, he confronted them head-on, acknowledging the deep wounds inflicted on countless individuals. His condemnation was clear and unequivocal. His words were not sugar-coated. He called for accountability. He emphasized that true repentance required action, not just words. The Church, he insisted, must take concrete steps to ensure that such atrocities never happen again. He demanded justice for the victims. His voice carried the pain and anger of those who had suffered, and he made it clear that justice was not just a legal matter, but a moral imperative. The crowd's reaction was a mix of solemn nods and silent tears. He spoke of the plight of the poor and marginalized. He highlighted the Church's mission to serve those who are often forgotten by society. His words painted a vivid picture of the struggles faced by the less fortunate and the Church's responsibility to be their advocate. He reminded the Church of its duty to serve the least of these. He called on the faithful to embody the teachings of Christ by reaching out to those in need. His message was a call to action, urging everyone to make a difference in their communities. He called for economic justice. He spoke passionately about the need to address the systemic inequalities that perpetuate poverty and suffering. His words were a rallying cry for change, urging the Church to take a stand against economic oppression. He spoke out against greed and inequality. He condemned the excesses of the wealthy and the exploitation of the vulnerable. His speech was a powerful indictment of the systems that prioritize profit over people. His words were a beacon of hope for the oppressed. He offered a vision of a more just and compassionate world, inspiring those who heard him to believe that change was possible. His speech was not just a critique, but a call to build a better future together. Luis Antonio Tagle was not born into privilege. He grew up in a devout Catholic family in the Philippines. He witnessed firsthand the struggles of ordinary people. This experience shaped his worldview. It ignited within him a passion for social justice. He was known for his humility and compassion. He was a man of the people. He listened to their stories. He shared their joys and sorrows. He was a pastor who led by example. Pope Tagle's journey to the papacy was remarkable. He served as Archbishop of Manila. He was a respected theologian. He was known for his interfaith dialogue work. He led Caritas Internationalis, the Church's global charity network. His experiences in Asia shaped his vision for the Church. He understood the challenges of poverty and inequality. He recognized the importance of cultural diversity. He believed in the power of dialogue and collaboration, a chorus of hope and doubt. Pope Tagle's speech sent shockwaves around the world. Catholics rejoiced. They saw in him a leader who understood their hopes and fears. World leaders praised his message of unity and compassion. Social justice advocates celebrated his call for action. However, not everyone embraced his vision. Conservative factions within the Church expressed resistance. They feared change. They clung to tradition. The road ahead would be challenging. Embracing the marginalized. Pope Tagle's vision for the Church was clear. He called for a Church that embraced the marginalized. He urged Catholics to welcome the stranger. He spoke out against discrimination based on race, religion, or sexual orientation. He challenged the Church to confront its own prejudices. He called for a more inclusive Church, a Church that reflected the diversity of God's creation, a Church that welcomed all, regardless of their differences, a Church for the poor. Pope Tagle believed that the Church must be a voice for the voiceless. He called for a renewed focus on social justice. He reminded Catholics of their duty to care for the poor and marginalized. He challenged the Church to address the root causes of poverty. He spoke out against economic systems that favored the wealthy at the expense of the poor. He called for a more just and equitable world, navigating the path of reform. Pope Tagle knew that the road ahead would be difficult. Reforming the Church would be a long and arduous process. He would face opposition from those who resisted change, but he was determined to lead the Church into a new era. He called for dialogue. He sought to build bridges. He believed that the Church could only move forward through unity and reconciliation. He knew that he could not do it alone. He needed the support of the entire Church. A legacy of love. Pope Tagle's papacy held the promise of a more inclusive, compassionate, and just Church. From the very beginning, he emphasized the importance of reaching out to the marginalized and the forgotten. His vision was not just about reforming the Church's internal structures, but also about transforming its relationship with the world. He believed that the Church should be a sanctuary for all, regardless of their background or beliefs. His daring words had ignited a spark of hope in the hearts of millions. He spoke with a fervor that resonated deeply with people from all walks of life. His speeches were not just about doctrine, but about the lived experiences of individuals. He addressed issues like poverty, inequality, and the need for global solidarity. His message was clear. The Church must be a force for good in the world, a beacon of hope for those in despair. Only time would tell if he would succeed in his mission. The challenges were immense, and the path ahead was fraught with obstacles. Yet Pope Tagle remained undeterred. He knew that real change would not come overnight, but he was committed to laying the groundwork for a more compassionate and just Church. His determination was unwavering, and his faith in the power of love was unshakable. But one thing was certain: his legacy would be defined by his unwavering commitment to love, compassion, and justice. He was not just a leader, but a shepherd, guiding his flock with kindness and understanding. His actions spoke louder than words, and his humility endeared him to many. He was often seen comforting the distressed, holding children, and praying fervently for the well-being of all. He was a beacon of hope in a world often shrouded in darkness. His radiant smile and gentle demeanor brought comfort to those who were suffering. In moments of crisis, he was a steady presence, offering solace and support. His faith was a source of strength, not just for himself, but for everyone around him. He lit up the darkest corners with his unwavering belief in the goodness of humanity. He was a reminder that even in the face of adversity, the power of love could prevail. His life was a testament to the enduring power of compassion and justice. He showed that true leadership is not about wielding power, but about serving others with humility and grace. His legacy of love continues to inspire and guide us, reminding us that no matter how challenging the times, love remains the most powerful force of all. Please subscribe to our channel History Documentary Hub for more insightful videos and intriguing content.